Alright everyone, how's it going? This is John here with Lux. We're about to install a 3-layer flag decal on our Hellcat Challenger, but I wanted to give you a breakdown of the kit and show you how I'm cutting these and why I'm cutting them this way. So if you see, this is everything that's going to come with the kit. This is going to be a satin black middle layer. This is a bottom flag that has the Challenger caps, and here's your Challenger caps top layer. So if you can see, we've got borders of vinyl around each of these, and that's there for a purpose. It's going to help us align these vinyl decals. This rectangle represents the trunk pop button, not necessarily where it is in location, but just centered. So if you take this middle layer, we're actually going to want to cut on the decal side in the white line to get rid of the border, and you want to include the rectangle. So you're going to see what this looks like outside when I put it on the car. I just want to show you what I'm doing to get there. When it comes to the bottom layer, you're going to want to actually cut on the border side. You want to cut all the way around the edge, including this transfer paper at the top, and cut into the notch. The notch will help you line it up centered wise, and this amount of transfer paper will fill in the gap between the light and the trunk, and it's going to help you align the decal top and bottom. With the Challenger, again, you cut along the outside edge. If you cut along the outside edge, it's going to line up with the embossing. It's going to help you center it. So I'll show you what that looks like right now on this decal. So this one's been cut already. If you can see, like I was showing you here, I included the notch and left all the extra along the top. There we are, it's just like that. This Challenger is ready to be installed. So you can see I cut it out as well. And if we look, we can line the transfer paper up on the left side with a C, and the R here on the right. That's going to install very easily and be aligned and look great. Another example of this real quick would be the Scat Pack head. So this is the head. You can see where it's going to be left out using the antenna and this bottom notch. After doing a couple of these, I realized just absolutely how disgusting these get with all of the dirt coming up from the back of the car and the exhaust and all. Our prep spray probably won't cut through all the contaminations that are on this light, so use something more aggressive if you want. Did come up with this little kit right here, so it's got some lubrication, little piece of a clay bar, a plastic razor blade, and I'm also going to include some fishing line in this. So this will be like a universal debadging kit or a decontamination kit. You could use it here on the sunroof, or if you're putting any decals anywhere on your car. So like any clay bar, all we're going to do is just lubricate the surface that we're trying to decontaminate here. Lubricate the face of the clay. If you've ever used one of these, they're real easy. All you do is just rub them on the car. You're going to feel any grit disappear after you go over it a couple of times, and once this is smooth, it's done. Ours is already pretty smooth. I just took a decal off of this and I had clayed it previously, but just to show you, that's how you clay bar if you've never done it before. Incredibly easy, and it'll prevent any little dots or any type of contamination from being underneath the decal, which after being installed will really drive you nuts. So spend an extra couple minutes, prep the surface, feels smooth as glass. I know we're good. All right, so one final time, I'll just take our prep spray and clean this area because we did just clay bar it. Make sure there's none of that lubrication left. Might fight the adhesive on the decal. Make sure you get into this crack here. That's nice and dry, and along the bottom side. It's not as important on this layer, but it will be on the next layer because it's going to fully wrap so we don't see any of this gloss plastic in the back. So now we'll start with the decal. We've got our application fluid. Let's take this and remove it from the backing paper. I'm doing this inside. It's about 70 degrees in here. It's a bit chilly outside and a bit misty, so wasn't going to chance that ruining this install. When I remove the backing paper, you can see I'm kind of taking the back and trying to roll it away from the decal. It's going to help leave the decal on the transfer paper because it's going to kind of want to pull up sometimes. Just look in there. If you see anything, use your fingers, press it back together, and continue to pull the backing paper away. One thing you can do to help with this is before starting what I'm doing now, let's take a squeegee and try to get some firm pressure applied here just to make sure that the paper is grabbing the decal. There we got a little bit to come up. love this new transfer tape that we got. It's an R tape product. It just seems to work much better than what we were using. So there we go. We've got the decal now. We've got the surface. Let's go ahead and liberally apply the spray here. Wet this surface. Remember, this is going to let us slide the decal around, so you don't want to be shy. And you're only going to need enough for the top layer after this. So there we go. As you can see, I can move it around. I'm lining that up first, this second, this third, a little bit to the left, and there we go. So that's the base layer down. Take the squeegee. I'm gonna run it straight down. That was hardly any pressure. Straight across, across. Now on the bottom corner, this bottom corner, top, and top. Okay, now that I've got it basically applied, not using much pressure at all, I'm gonna flip, and now I am giving a lot of pressure to my strips. Again, we're trying to evacuate the moisture from behind this decal. So keeping that in mind, work the way that you want the moisture to go. You can kind of start seeing the decal underneath the transfer paper. I found that the application from the vinyl to this plastic is really, really strong. We usually don't have to wait very long before we can remove the transfer paper here. So let's go ahead and do that. Well, didn't quite stick yet, but these are real small fragmented pieces. So if we need to, grab your trusty heat gun. We'll just help this moisture dissipate by putting a little bit of heat on it. Being careful not to pull up any of the decal. Of course, if you're having trouble with this and the decal wants to lift on you, just leave the garage. Just leave for a little while. Let the adhesive set. Let the moisture dissipate. Oh, there we go. We got a little bit of the decal here, but because we're being safe, I'm just going to reach in and press it down. You can see I'm not pulling the paper this way. I'm rolling it back over itself. There's a lot less chance the vinyl is going to lift up, roll all the way over, and then tear. If you pull this way, it's a lot easier for the vinyl to lift up this far and tear. There we go. So our base layer is down. I'm going to switch techniques. I'm not going to use the squeegee and do directional presses because these are all just pieces of a flag. So I'm just going to kind of come in here and dab it. Blot it with a microfiber, making sure I don't lift any part of the decal. Nope, everything looks great. So now I'm going to just really work at getting all this moisture to go away. We're going to need to get all this moisture to go away and then clean this one more time with our prep spray with the alcohol. Since the next decal is dry application, we don't want any of the slip solution left or the application fluid. It's not going to help us there. It's actually just going to fight us. So let's see here. Pull out the heat gun. We really want to make sure all the moisture is gone too, because we don't want anything underneath this vinyl and then underneath the carbon fiber or the satin black vinyl, the middle layer. It's only going to make the embossing dull or cause problems in the future. There we go. Just going to take my microfiber cloth here and kind of flip it to one of the more dry sides. Okay, that side's dry. Back with the prep spray, which is the alcohol solution. Just missed it. And again, dry side to blot it away. Okay, and just to make sure that that crevice is clean, I don't know why I have to wrap the microfiber around the squeegee, run across that once, and run across this bottom once. And you can see we just pulled some dirt out of there, so that was a good move. Next layer, we have the carbon fiber here. So as you can see with the carbon fiber, when I cut this out, I did cut the border. The difference is I cut on this side of the vinyl. So I didn't want any extra transfer paper around the top. I do want that rectangle there. The rectangle, again, lines up with the trunk release, and this is gonna install incredibly easy. So really the only thing the transfer paper is doing here is just keeping this shape from distorting and keeping the vinyl from stretching. It's also gonna let you reposition pretty easily if you need to. So we've got this here, same technique as before, line up the button, except I'm just lining the top edge up with the plastic. I'm gonna tack right here with my right thumb, run it over, tack with my left thumb, take a look at the alignment on each side. They look great. So now that we've got this top line applied, same as before, take the squeegee, run it straight down. I'm just gonna chop towards the outside. Since there's no stretch or anything on this vinyl, this couldn't be any easier. You're not gonna have any weird wrinkles or crevices. If you do, you've put some really odd tension on the piece. So we can't do much more with the transfer paper on. Now we actually have to get the embossing to show through. In order to do that, we start tearing right here at the rectangle. It gives us a nice place to tear since there is vinyl overhanging the top and bottom. You don't want to start tearing there, you may accidentally rip that. And you can just use your thumb pad or finger pad to kind of roll this paper up to get it off the rest. So our alignment is really, really nice. You can't quite see the embossing yet. Well, you can on the camera, according to the camera. Now we're gonna use a little bit of heat and just press this shape to where it's visible. Start towards the middle of the decal and work your way out. That way you're working any bubble or any air down the flag shape towards the outside of the decal. Heat will be necessary for this step. You may be able to see some of the embossing if you don't use heat, but it's gonna be sloppier, not as crisp, especially in the star areas. So just kind of heat up, look where I think a star is, press my thumb and roll it. All right, and now for the top edge and bottom edge, a little bit of heat, run it out to the left, run it out to the right, and I'm just gonna start to chop. You can see using chopping motions. I don't want to take this and run it this way because you could cause wrinkles doing that. So by using the chopping motions, you almost certainly won't. Now I did run it sideways this time, but if you look at the edge, or I mean the angle that I'm holding the squeegee, I'm not applying the vinyl all the way around that lip. I'm just getting it started. So we'll open the trunk and we'll really secure that But for the time being, there we go. That was a successful installation of the second layer. And now we'll go for the top layer. One more time, because we've been pressing on this with our fingers. If you're sweating at all, you don't want any of that oil getting in the way. Use a little of the prep spray again, the alcohol solution. Just give this a wipe. Now I can see the Hellcat head embossing pretty good. So, because I've cut this along the border outside, this transfer paper is going to line up with the embossing perfectly. So, we just want to get this in place. Once we've got that, go for the install. Okay, so that's going to be what I'm aiming for. Right there. Apply fluid. Well, before I start this, I'm going to stand up, use the trunk of the car, apply some pressure to this Hellcat head so that it lifts off a little easier than that last one did. Yeah, that's all it took. All right, now you can see there's a little bit of extra red vinyl around this. It's not really gonna be a problem. I'm just gonna rub it off once this is applied. It's so thin, there's no reason to try to get it off now. Okay, our apply fluid is sprayed. Looking for my registration marks. A little bit harder now that the fluid is applied, but not super bad. There we go. It's all in place now. Just that easy. Using the beveled edges, really this right here. Yeah, everything looks great. So just gonna kind of start right from the middle of the head, work out in the cross direction. There you go, there's a little sliver of that red vinyl already came out. If you're working with the text, real long text, I don't generally use a squeegee for that because I'm afraid I'm gonna distort the text or kind of blur one of the letters or something. So in that instance, I'm just gonna use my thumb and keep pressing on it. This is one area where we're gonna have patience and not try to rush it, because especially if you have carbon fiber, because you have wet installation vinyl on top of a textured pattern, which means no matter how hard you squeegee, there's still gonna be a little bit of moisture left underneath it. When we're finished with this installation, there's a good chance that this is gonna have bubbles all throughout it. Those bubbles in the top layer should dissipate over a couple of days out in the sun. So don't let that worry you or frustrate you. Let's see, not wanting to stick to that carbon because of the fluid that's left. So we'll use the heat gun and again help get it away. When you're pressing on the decal, just be smart in the direction you're pressing and watch and make sure that nothing's coming loose. Just be real gentle. Roll the backing paper back, as you can see me doing here. Again, it's going to prevent that decal from wanting to lift. Still a lot of moisture back here, but I'm working fast for this video. So if I were doing this and not shooting a video, I'd probably have waited 5 or 6 more minutes to let that moisture evaporate out. But you can see I can take any of those little red stragglers, just get rid of those. Now I'm just gonna take the microfiber and just blot. No left-right motion, no up-down motion, nothing, because I don't want to catch any of these little sharp corners. But I definitely want this to settle. Before we go driving and get any contaminants back there. I'm just gonna do this to kind of post the vinyl, help that moisture escape. And really with the carbon fiber texture, There is no bubbles because there's always somewhere for the water to go. This came out really, really sharp. It's the first time seeing the Hellcat head on the flag in carbon fiber, and very impressed. Looks very, very cool.